Hey rollers, how's it going today? Thank you for joining us on episode 18. It's going to be another great episode. We thank you for being here. We want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporter at the $10 level, Tyler Strangways. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Roots of Life podcast because we don't have any sponsors or outside network support. We just do this out of the joy and the love in our hearts that we have for you and everybody else out there. So thank you for joining us. Today's going to be another great episode. We hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Roots of Life podcast. My name is Taylor. I am one half of the host, joined by he only does it all, James Fitzgerald.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Today's topic, it's one that I really enjoy. We've been pushing it through pretty much everything that we've been doing throughout this entire podcast. And if you're on our Instagram, it's the same sort of stuff, positivity. But more importantly, it's self-care and the importance of making sure that you take care of yourself in both body, mind, and spirit. So we're going to try and push that a little bit more, work a little deeper into it, and talk about how you can do those kind of things. And then we're also going to go and talk about the other side of the scale where you end up doing that too often and you kind of escape into that world of either finding things that make you feel good and continue to do so and only do those things, or, for example, just escape into a fantasy world through video games, reading, whatever it is, and it becomes sort of a problem or a hindrance in your life.
Self-love was kind of the direct inspiration for the podcast.
Yeah, I think it really was, wasn't it? Just like getting into, I think it was The Artist's Way was like the spark, and really a big part of that book is trying to find a way to love yourself and be creative through doing that, I think.
It's about nurturing that side of yourself and really finding a way to connect with the positive side of your life rather than the negativity that can really weigh you down on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, I know I have a lot of negative thoughts that I have to try and push out all the time just because day-to-day life's hard, you get stressed out, and you kind of forget to think about the positive parts of your life. You just focus on what you need to do and why you need to do it and all the different stressors in your life. And it kind of bogs you down, and you forget to take care of yourself and do the things that you need to do to stay healthy and happy.
That's why it's always important to just take that time and remind yourself and really try and create a habit out of it, right? Because the negativity is so powerful, and those negative thoughts and those it can really just weigh you down and push you into this other space that nobody really wants to be in, and it kind of starts to bog you down. And that's when not depression, but that little bit of sadness weighs in, and that's when you start to really think about the blue skies in a metaphorical sense.
You get into the blues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we have a few different things. There's different parts to kind of focus on. Of course, we have, as I stated, there's mind, body, and soul. So we have a few different things that we're going to suggest that kind of help with each one of those. So we'll start off. I think the biggest one and the most beneficial for me, because it helps when it comes to getting myself ready to work on both body and soul, is working on the mind. You got to change your thinking patterns and get those negative thoughts kind of in the background rather than in the foreground. So you have to kind of I find decluttering my living space is one of those big helpful things that helps my mind kind of work at an optimal level. I'm not thinking about all the stuff that I have to do at home because my living space is clean and uh, decluttered, and it just helps with organizing the rest of my life.
Well, I think in a very practical way, like when your house is cluttered or when your living space is cluttered, you almost want to refrain from doing the things that you know you probably should do. Like I instantly go to the kitchen. If there's a ton of dishes and there's just like stacks of plates and the sink is full, you're not really going to want to cook that nutritious meal that your body wants, because there's a lot of other work and emotional labor that goes and physical labor that goes into like the preparation for that meal, because you have to do the dishes, then you have to prep and cook, and then you're probably going to want to do the dishes afterwards. So if you can work on decluttering that space and keep it regular, then in that sense you're going to be able to feed your body the fuel, and that's just the mind. Like there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into that, because some people don't want to cook, but if you have that space clean, then you're more likely to do it.
Yeah, I know. I actually enjoy cooking, but today I was a little hungover, so I mean, I did have some fun, which is part of self-care. Make sure you have fun and do fun things, but I didn't quite take care of myself properly, so I ended up being hungover, and the kitchen was a bit of a mess, so I ended up just eating like 2 bagels loaded with cream cheese today.
That sounds so nutritious.
Super nutritious, all the gluten.
All
Loved
the
it.
gluten, all the sugar. At least in the cream cheese, there's some fat, so
Yeah.
that is long burning fuel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure in the cream cheese there's probably a bit of sugar too, but
Oh, probably.
forget about that. It was probably a delicious meal nonetheless.
I mean, it was great. I watched Dave Chappelle, ate a couple bagels loaded with cream cheese. Honestly, it was like one of those moments where I was done eating them and I was like, oh man, this is just it's a good day because I'm just kind of hanging out, being lazy, but I know this is not how I should be eating or what I should be doing at all.
See, and were you really doing that out of, care for yourself, or were you doing that because you didn't want to do anything else?
Oh, it was definitely because I just didn't want to like clean the kitchen and do anything else. It was just like I want to eat food now and I just want to go sit down again because I don't feel great.
Yeah, it's amazing how we give into those temptations. Like the hangover is that thing that it's our body's direct way of saying like, yo, you killed me last night. Like it kind of sucked, man. But yet we always want to do it over and over, right?
Yeah, we still end up doing it.
How many times do you have that moment where you're like, I'm never drinking again? And then, of course, within, whatever X amount of time, for sure, you're hanging out with your friends and you're having a couple drinks and you're having a good time.
I'm sure I've probably had at least 5 of those never drinking again moments. So
Yeah, we all have
and
them.
I'm
I
sure
remember
I'll have
the
more.
first time I ever had one was on my 19th birthday. It got messy and it was fun from what I remember, but it was the first time I ever had a headache from a hangover.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point for me where I was like, I'm never going to do that again. But of course I did.
Yeah.
Many, many times.
I think my most memorable one was like a night where I drank absinthe and a bottle of wine. The next day was not good.
Doesn't sound like two that
was
you
like
would want to mix.
No. Somebody had I was drinking the wine and then somebody was like, "Hey, we have absinthe." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And then I drank a lot of that and I think my hangover lasted about 2 days after that one. So that was one of those like, "Oh my God, I do not want to do that ever again" kind of hangovers.
Yeah. So
But I
that, I
still
mean,
did.
that's on the, I guess on more taking care of your body.
Yeah.
But so we're talking about the mind. And I think a good one, something I wanted to talk about is, we always have this desire to please the people around us. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times, we end up with a busy schedule because, of course, as we always want to keep busy, and people usually want to stay active, and you want to try and, we're it's nice when we can have those days to relax and take it easy on the couch, but generally we're trying to keep it pretty busy. And so sometimes when you need to take that day for yourself, and there's maybe somebody who is like, hey, like I could use you today, or I could really use a favor if you could help me move, or if your friend wants to spend some time with you. Sometimes you have to be selfish in a sense and take care of yourself and like learn to say no. It's important to set those boundaries around it, because ultimately, like, you have to take that rest sometimes, and it's not always easy, but I find those boundaries are super important. And so sometimes you have to learn to say no, and some people won't take nicely to it, but ultimately you have to do it. Like for me, it's sometimes with my girlfriend, if she asks me to hang out and I'm like, no, like I need today for me, because that's ultimately what I have to do to take care of myself. And if there's certain things I haven't done in that week, like if I haven't exercised as regularly as I usually like to, then sometimes I'm like, no, like I can't do anything at least till later in the day or the following day, because I have to do something for me. So sometimes you have to be selfish, and selfish has like a negative connotation that comes with it, but it
It really
doesn't always
does.
have to. It's important to take care of yourself.
Yeah. I just wanted to add a little bit to that. It's good to say no to other people, but sometimes you have to say no to yourself as well. Not in terms of saying no, don't eat this bad thing or whatever. I mean, which is important as well, but we have to be aware that of our own limitations, and what we can do in a week or a month or a day, simply even with time constraints. But you have to be able to tell yourself no, you can't actually get that done as well as all these other things, even if it's something that either you find should be you think is really important or would be really fun. Some of those things you have to say no to yourself, and be able to be okay with that you can't be a part of everything. You got to get over the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Sometimes you're going to miss out. You'll hear the story later maybe, but you got to be able to recognize that you have limits, and you can't make it to everything or get everything you need to get done.
Yeah, it's important to know, like you said, your limitations, because there's only so much time in a day, and your body can only take you so far. There's a reason as humans that we sleep every day. Our brains can only handle so much. You know, your brain takes in so much data throughout a day, and you just wear it down with its constant use. If you ran a car for 24 hours a day, it would break down a lot quicker. So that's important to know when to rest, when to take some time for yourself. Those that's really important, just to take that time to slow down and, really care for yourself.
Yeah. Part of that as well is, don't be negative about it though. Like, don't say, "Oh, you suck, you can't do those things." Compliment yourself at the same time. Say you've already gotten all of this done. It's time to take some time for yourself. It's time to do things for yourself simply because you need that time. So make sure that you compliment yourself as well. You have those positive affirmations and positive thoughts and things like that. It really helps with being able to be aware of those limitations instead of just feeling down on yourself about those limitations instead.
That was one that I always struggled with, and I think a lot of people do, is where you kind of get into your own head and you think like, oh, I could have gotten more done that day, or I could have done this, or I shouldn't have done that, when it really makes a difference when you can spin that on itself and be like, wow, I got all that done today, or oh, I really good today. Instead of thinking about what you didn't get done or what you could have done, think about what you did do and what you did accomplish, because that takes this weight off of you. And ultimately, it's going to make you so much happier. It makes it so much easier to smile. You're going to be able to engage in more interesting conversations and just connect with people. You're going to laugh more. You're just going to have a way better day. And so it's hard, but a good one to do is to write down affirmations. Think about the things that you say to yourself regularly, like the negative things. Like if you say something bad about yourself regularly, write down the affirmation for it. Write down the opposite of it. If you say, oh, if you struggle with weight, if you're thinking like, oh, like I'm out of shape, think like, wow, I feel really good about I feel really good about my body today, and just say that to yourself. Write it down 5 times, say it to yourself 5 times, and that'll start to shift your thinking, and it'll just help your brain and your mind operate on a daily basis so much easier, and you'll get so much farther. You just oil that motor with the right information, and it'll take you so much farther.
That's something I feel like I really need to do a lot more of, because that's definitely something I struggle with, is those negative thoughts. I start thinking like, oh, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that enough, or whatever it is. And then I end up getting into this negative thought spiral, basically, where I just start thinking, well, you didn't do it, and why would you do it now, kind of thing. And you just end up never doing the thing, when simply just doing it would be a lot easier than having all these negative thoughts tell you not to do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into that. It's so much easier to not do something, because I think that when we talked about the fear of success, you're going to ultimately do it, and then there's something that comes after that, and that is usually a lot harder to come to terms with than just not doing it, because when you're not doing it, you're comfortable, and it's a lot easier to make an excuse for yourself and say, well, I didn't do it, I can do it tomorrow, or I can do it the next day, rather than putting yourself into that tough situation and getting outside of your comfort zone and really just doing it. And it's weird, because you will feel better once you do it, but for some reason there's always this form of resistance that just makes us want to stray from doing the things that we know we need to do.
Yeah, I've actually caught myself recently. I had somebody telling me that they were going to listen to the podcast, and in my head, right away, I was like, oh, tell them not to listen to the first 3 episodes because of audio, and then tell them to start at episode 14 where we changed the format because it's different now. And I started writing this out to them, and then I wrote and I sent it, and then I was like, and then I told them, I was like, I'm sorry, this is part of just I'm a little bit conscientious about it at this point, just because of what we've done. Get into this this frame of thinking where I see all the flaws that we've had in the past on what we've improved on, and I just I want you to see the best of it before any of the other stuff. So I told them, you listen to whatever part you want. It's all there. It's our content, and it was the way we wanted it when we did it. But as I go back and listen to them, I'm like, oh, we could have done that better. We should have done this. When really it is what it is, and it all is as good as it's gonna be. And yeah, it's out there, and it's perfect the way it is now.
Yeah, and that's all you can do is, just accept the situation for what it is, but know that if you can put yourself in a position to do these things and just work through the little bit of nuances and the resistance that face you, you're going to feel better when you get to the other side, rather than beating your head against a brick wall and getting nowhere.
Exactly.
So keep that in mind. Now, the body. How do you take care of the body? How do you show self-love and care for the body? Because I love just the metaphor of your body is a car. You're on this road trip through life, and you have this body, and if you don't take care of it, you're not going to get very far. But if you oil that thing and take it in for its regular maintenance and just care for it, you're going to get a lot farther on this trip than you will, when it breaks down 50 kilometers down the road.
Yeah. And definitely don't beat your head against a brick wall. That's definitely not going to help with the body
No,
either.
that won't help at all.
So I know one thing that we've both mentioned we like to do, which we do at home mostly, is just we dance around when we're listening to music. I remember when I was at your house watching you create music. I loved watching that you were actually dancing while creating it. Like it was just awesome to see that you were so into the spirit of the music that you were moving as well as creating the music. Instead of just like sitting down at a computer moving things around, you were physically like manifesting the music with your movements in a way. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's a big part of making music for me is I have like my drum machines and I like to stand up, and that's why I like engineering in the studio, is because I get to stand up and I get to move and I get to set up mics and I'm playing with knobs on the console and doing all these things. And it's not just me sitting at my computer for 12 hours or less or whatever it might be, right? I really get involved and I get to move, and it's a lot more fun and engaging. And so, yeah, dancing is like a great one, like I feel like that's one that a lot of people do that they don't like to admit, whether you admit it or not, is like everybody I can imagine just sits, or like when they're at home alone and they've got the tunes cranked and they're doing whatever, like everybody's doing it. Everybody's dancing. Everybody's singing along to their favorite song. Everybody's just, it feels good. It feels good to let it out in a place of no judgment, And if you can do that in your home, or if you need to take a night a week to go out and dance with your girlfriends or whatever, like you should do that, because dancing's a great one. Like you just look at all like even just like foreign tribes and stuff in older cultures, where that was like a big part of just everyday life was, they would have fires and they would cook food and they would dance and, drum circles and play songs, and it was a part of everyday life. And I think, we're very much in that world now where if you work a 9 to 5 and you're at a computer all day, you're sitting down, and that's hard for your body. Like your body is not it doesn't want to sit down for 8 hours at a time or 12 hours at a time. And I fall victim to that as well. Like I end up sitting down for a long time because of my job. And so it's important to get up and move, if you're into meditating, or if you can really like, breathe air into those important parts of your body. If it's really important to listen to your body and notice like what parts are tense that day and what hurts, and if something needs to be stretched out, like really listen to your body, because your body will send those signals. If you just take a step back and just like close your eyes and think about your body, like what body parts are you feeling? Like what is there? It's important to recognize that. Like I can tell you right now, like my back hurts, and that's my brain telling my body that my back needs some self-love.
I actually just stretched out my shoulder because I was sitting here and it was hurting. So I was stretching it and got it all to crack and stretch, and it feels great now.
Yeah, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
You just gotta like listen to those signals, because again, like we get so caught up in our own world these days that we forget to take that time to listen to ourselves, and you have to like get to know yourself on an intimate level. Like, like you gotta get into that.
I'm actually really excited. I'm going back to the island in I think exactly a week today. And part of that, I have planned to go dancing with all my friends on the island, because that's one of my favorite activities, is going out and dancing as hard as I can for as many hours as my body will let me.
There you go, man.
It's
That's
fun.
Awesome.
I love it.
You just gotta shake it, let it loose, let your body
Yeah.
feel good, and just get going.
It's fun.
Another one I think for the body, is that I think we've talked about it before. It's as simple as like vitamin D is a leading lack of vitamin D is a leading form of depression or a leading cause of depression. And so going for as short as like a 20-minute walk and giving your body that time to like move and like stretch your hips and get your legs motivated and really like soaking in some sun, hopefully it's not cloudy,
Yeah.
it can really do a lot for you.
Especially now, coming into spring, as we've just gone through winter, which is one of the biggest problems for people with seasonal affective disorder, where the sun's not out enough, so they don't get enough vitamin D, and because of that, a lot of people end up with depressive symptoms, and they don't feel very good about themselves and things like that because of the lack of vitamin D from the sun. So coming into spring, it's really good to go out, get some sun, replenish that body's vitamin D, maybe take some vitamin D supplements if that's something else you want to do as well. It's really good to do those things.
I had somebody tell me a few months back that vitamin D is one of the only vitamins that our body doesn't get from food and that our body can't create itself. So if you're not outside regularly, or if you live in a dark place, or it's cloudy and rainy a lot, then vitamin D is a very good supplement to take because it's something that you don't get from food. Your body can't create it itself. So vitamin D is a good one. Or just go outside and get some sun. Hopefully the spring does good. Or go tanning. I know people who do that. I mean, it's mostly girls, I guess. Some guys as well.
I mean, actually out in the sun, but yeah, tanning as well.
Either way, right?
I think you're still getting some of the vitamin D, right?
You are totally getting vitamin D. It's the same thing. I know people who had a lack of vitamin D and actually went and saw a doctor for it, or and the doctor said go tanning because
cool.
Yeah, like it, so it's, I mean, yes, people can do it to tan and get change the color of their skin tone, but you can also do it for the purpose of health benefits. But I also think that you don't, like, if you're doing it for the vitamin D, like, you don't have to go in as long as people usually do to change the color of their skin tone. Like, you can go in and tan for like a really short amount of time and get the health benefits, and your skin can intake the nutrients and the vitamin. So
microdosing tanning.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Another one that I think is really important that I feel like in today's culture, in today's society, it's become something that people do just for the straight, like, instant pleasure, but actually getting to know yourself intimately in like a sexual way is, I think, really helpful for your body. Not just that, like, watch porn for 10 seconds, jerk off as fast as you can kind of thing, but like actually take your time. I know it sounds all like, I don't know, I feel like girls have got it right from the beginning, where they like do the candles and like make a day of it kind of thing, like the tradition.
Oh, for sure.
Like, do that. Like, even like if you're a girl that doesn't, try it out. If you're a guy, you probably don't. You should do it. Just like take some time, make it last. Like, enjoy that moment. Like, don't just rush to the end. Like, the journey's part of the fun.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Make that body feel good.
There you go.
I think that's just really important.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you got candles, get some that smell good, because good smells are nice.
Good smells are nice. Ever since I put up candles one time, every time my girlfriend comes over, she's always like, can we put the candles on?
That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. We can put the candles on, baby. Yeah, she loves the candles. Man, and I don't blame her.
Because so many candles.
They do smell good.
They do. Absolutely. I love candles.
Totally. So the third part of self-love and self-care is the soul. There's the mind, the body, and the soul. And so it's a tricky one because everybody's different in this sense. I mean, everybody's different in all these ways because everybody has different needs and different desires. But Jimmy, how would you, what are some things you think about when talking about self-love of the soul? Like how would you take care of your soul? How would you take that time to really nurture it and care for it and make it feel good?
I find that there's a lot of different ways that I do it, but one of the ones that comes to mind right away is finding like making a beautiful playlist of like the music that just like hits you really hard, like right in the chest, you just feel it, and then going for a walk in nature while listening to it. That's one of the ones that for me it's just like I feel recharged and replenished when I'm done. I just feel really good, and it's just like a really fun and nice experience for me. I know
Right.
I actually used to do stuff like that before trying psychedelics like mushrooms, and there was some of this music that I would listen to that was you could qualify it as like dreamscape or psychedelic, and I would go through the woods and kind of just like touch things and check things out. And then when I did mushrooms, I was like, this is kind of how I feel when I do those music trips through the woods. Like this is very similar. There's like a similar feeling. So if you are against psychedelics or don't want to put those into your body, that's something you could try.
There you go.
It
You
may
heard
have
it here
similar
first on the
benefits.
Roots of Life podcast.
I have not checked any science behind it, but that's my own experience.
Think about it though. I mean, I don't know. It sounds nice. You know, it sounds relaxing. That's what I think. So
Yeah.
I would give it a jive. Go for a walk. Put some good tunes on. Some real emotional music, baby.
Get down and low.
Yeah.
Taylor,
Cool.
I know you're all about this part of self-love. What are some of the things that you do? I feel like this is part that you really focus on.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, my creativity is big one. I think it really depends on what your soul calls to, right? But for me, like I just have this desire to uh create sometimes. Like that's a big one for me, you know, and sometimes like that is that time where I have to take time away from other things and just like unwind, and sometimes it's as easy as pulling up a coloring book and just letting my mind rest, because when I color I just don't even think about colors really much. I'm not super picky and I'm not anal about it. So I find creating like art is a great one for the soul, just because we like there is that part of you that your mind will work up. Like when I think of it, I try and do art that I'm not picky about. Like when I work on music, I'm very critical of it, or I try not to be, but because it's something that I take very seriously. If I'm really trying to like care and like unwind, then I won't work on music because I'll do something else. Because when it comes to say like doing clay work or pottery or coloring, it's not stuff that I really like I'm not worried about the outcome as much, because it's not like my name and my brand is stamped on it kind of thing. I'm just like, cool, like this is just me time. I'm doing this for myself. And so that's one I like to do, you know. And I think if you play an instrument, like that's a great one to just sit there and like relax and just like jam out on the piano or a guitar or whatever your jam is. So I think art and creating is a great one. I also, I think you always hear about people, like I've gone through different phases of my life where sometimes I find that I like to do this more at certain times in my life than others, like because sometimes I get caught up in my own shit, which I think a lot of us do, obviously. But helping other people is always a good feeling and a good reward, and I think it takes some of the stress and it takes your mind off of, you know, some of your own shit, and so you can focus on helping other people and doing other things, and that can be really nurturing for your soul as well. So those are some things, that can come in different forms as well. It can be as easy as, again, like coloring a picture for someone or drawing a picture for someone, or if you have the time, like writing a letter to someone can be so like therapeutic. It's amazing. So those are some things that I really like to do. Or again, like candles, like senses, like if you can just learn to unwind and like not get down on yourself for it, like there's so many things. I don't know, like I feel like I could just go on and on here.
I know. I had the same thing, but I was like, I gotta cut myself off, pass it over to you, see what you got, and then we can go from there.
Well, yeah, a lot of it is mind, body, and soul. Like when I think, like I don't know, like I focus on the soul, because the soul is like what'll like bring me peace and happiness. I find, is when I take care of it. So to wrap all of those into one, like instead of me running in circles saying all this different stuff, I think one that takes care of the mind, body, and soul, and I think it's a good one just for us to like wrap this topic up on, is meditation. Because it helps your body relax. If you can learn to like relax your muscles through deep breathing, then you can just release that tension out of your muscles, from your shoulders, or if you've been sitting all day, from your hips. And it's a great one. So like meditation is good for that. It's great for your mind. Like if you can learn to focus on your body and like focus on your breathing, and it can help relax the mind and like get rid of a lot of the excess garbage thoughts and like the data that you've taken in that day. And so that's a great one for the mind as well. And then it's just like at that point you've like opened up yourself to just like new thoughts and new ideas and new opportunities. And that's, I think, what like caring for the soul is about. It's about leaving yourself open to the opportunities that the universe presents you, and just opening one, like closing one door when it needs to be closed, and turning to the 3 other doors that are guaranteed to open, right? Like when you close that door behind you and you turn around, there's always going to be other opportunities, and there's always going to be things there. So it's important to like just I find meditation is a great one, and that's kind of where I wanted to end this on.
I like it. Yeah. I think with meditation as well, you can also kind of start thinking about how you feel. And I think part of working on the soul is like focusing on emotions and finding out how you feel about things and why you feel that way and where you are emotionally. Because a big part of that is just trying to be a happier person so that you're happy in your life, and you can't be happy if you don't understand where your emotions come from.
Yeah, you have to like know what it is to be angry to know what it is to be happy. You have to understand what sad is to understand what happy is. And I think that's something that people get twisted a lot is, people don't like to feel their emotions, and they try to numb it out with, substances and just like, social media and other information, so they can distract themselves from it, when really it's important to notice those things. Because if you just avoid being sad and you avoid being angry, then you're gonna like end up not really knowing what it is to be happy.
You got to know the lows to get the highs.
Exactly. All the highs. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jimmy. We're gonna take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Moon dust in your lungs, stars in your eyes. You are a child of the cosmos, a ruler of the skies.
Welcome back, everybody. It is that time of the day where I get to ask James my favorite question. Jimmy, I want to know, what tickles your fancy?
You do? But that's not my answer for today. My answer...
Well, it should be.
It kind of is, but it's also You're a part of this answer. You're a part of this answer.
Okay.
When a plan comes together.
Oh, when a plan comes together?
Yes.
Say it loud, Jimmy.
When a plan comes together.
Ow! All right. Can
Like
you
part of this-
give me an example?
This podcast right
This
here.
podcast?
What we're
This
doing.
This one right
now.
here.
Yes.
Like
Today.
the roots of life.
Roots of Life podcast. That's the
Goddamn.
one. Yeah. I love it because we plan things out. Sometimes it doesn't work. But then sometimes it's just fabulous and it just works and we don't have to do anything extra to make it work. It's just there and it's beautiful. And that's what I love. When a plan comes together.
I love when plans come together. There's nothing
too.
worse than when a plan falls apart.
That's actually like the opposite of this is one of the worst things.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here to talk about.
We don't
are
do
here
that. We're
to
all
talk
about the
what,
good
What
things.
tickles our fancies?
What tickles your fancy?
Well, what tickles my fancy is those sunny days where it's nice and warm out, but not too warm. And there's a nice layer of snow on the ground. And you go out back, you've got your toques on and your snow pants, and you've got all the kids from the neighborhood. It sounds kind of pedophilia, kind of. But anyways,
When we were kids, of course.
what tickles my fancy is snowballs. I was gonna say snowball fights, like snowballs, like when you've got just people, the snowballs, and people are having fun, and there's like a big community, and people that have snowballs, and you're rolling lots of them, and you're throwing balls, and people are getting hit, and there's like ice and snow splatting across people's faces, and all that jazz.
For anyone who's not Canadian, this happens every day. Just so you're aware. And toques are beanies if you're American.
And we do live in igloos.
All the igloos.
All the igloos are lived in. So don't even try. Come and live in my igloo.
I love snowball fights. One of my favorite moments in the snowball fight is like, of course, the name of the game is to hit the person across from you. And my favorite moment of a snowball fight, I hit someone in the side of the head so hard, I filled their ear with snow, and then they pulled it out, and it was like the perfect like shape of the inside of their ear, and it was amazing.
No way.
It was great.
That's awesome.
It was probably super bad for their ear, but it was really cool.
Yeah. I remember when we used to have snow days, and because I lived so close to the school growing up, and it was always like there was like a massive hill at the school.
Yeah.
And so everybody, like on snow days, would still go to the school because it was a place to go sledding and play. And there was always like lots of people. And so we always used to have like the best snowball fights, like the giant field. You build two forts and then you just like huck balls at each other all day.
Yeah. They're like, oh, these kids won't come to school. Just kidding. We went anyways.
Absolutely. Topic 2 for the day. Jimmy, you specifically wanted to talk about escapism.
I did.
And I like it because it kind of fits in with like the contradictory aspect of escapism, or sorry, self-love.
It's the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's something that we
In a
do
way,
to
yeah.
neglect ourselves, but sometimes it's necessary. It's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's escapism literature and things like that. Like, I mean, fantasy games or anything to do with fantasy is, in a way, it's escapism because you're not necessarily doing it to learn anything, but you're doing it for the pleasure of something different, something fun.
Yeah.
But escapism can become a problem. Escapism is the avoidance of unpleasant, boring, arduous, scary, or banal aspects of daily life. It can also be used as a term to define the actions people take to help relieve persisting feelings of depression or general sadness.
So that exactly talks about not feeling your feelings.
Exactly.
That is what we talked about, right? Like using a substance as a form of escapism to numb yourself to those necessary emotions that as humans we are supposed to feel.
Exactly. It doesn't even have to be a substance. It can just be like you go and literally sit in a closet to escape things. Like, it can be a physical action. It can be a substance. It could be like just
You know what I love? You know what I love about that example is it doesn't seem like that one would be very common.
yeah.
But when you put it into that perspective, it makes you realize how unhealthy it is.
Yeah.
Like, you think of somebody just like hiding in a closet and you're like, dude, that's not right. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. And when you put it in that light, you're like, okay, like, that's not something we should be doing.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I wanted something that like would be like, no, that's not cool. That's not okay. And it really, I mean, escapism it's good in the terms of self-care when you just need to like get away from that stress for a little bit, for like maybe an hour every couple of days, or even every day, or whatever it is. I know, like, both Taylor and I enjoy playing video games, and that is a form of escapism. It's something you can do that allows you to kind of rest your mind, ease your worries, things like that, and you get to enjoy the process and enjoy the game. But it becomes a problem when that's all you do and you start to neglect other parts of your life.
Binge watching Netflix for hours on end.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I've done that many times.
I had an interesting conversation with someone the other day, or somebody had made a comment. The roommate actually made the comment.
The roommate.
I was watching Netflix and I was like, oh, should I watch another episode? Should I go to bed? And then he pointed out how Netflix gives you 15 seconds between episodes. And he was like, I hate how you have 15 seconds to decide what you're going to do with the next half hour of your life.
Right?
And I realized that he was totally right, but it's not a lot of time. You have to make a quick decision. It's a lot of pressure. Yeah.
I mean, I've been watching things on Crave TV as well. And even theirs is longer. I think it's almost a minute, but like 45 seconds, I think is what it is. And even 45 seconds to decide what you're going to do with the next half an hour to an hour of your life is like, okay, I have 45 seconds. If I don't make it, I have to watch this.
Exactly.
Because it's on. It's there. I can't just not.
Do you ever almost try and like go do something quickly, like
Always.
run to the bathroom within that minute and then come back, or go grab snacks?
I'm always
or
like,
whatever.
Okay, I got 15 or 45, whatever, however long it is, and I'm like, okay, I can do so many things in that time, and then I'll come back and I'll still get to watch this, and I still got those things done. I never get enough done. I usually come back and I'm like, oh, I got to restart it, but I still try.
So how do you minimize the escapism, Jimmy? Like, how do you keep it at a healthy dose?
To be honest, the biggest thing is like moderation, trying to moderate between, like, for example, today I did not moderate at all. I sat on the couch all day. I was a little hungover, as I stated earlier. So, I mean, I kind of felt like it was justified. I was like, I don't feel good, so I can just lounge around and be lazy. But really, it's not good for me to do that. I should be moderating and being aware of where I am and what I'm doing and my time. But that's the biggest thing, is just being aware of my time, trying to make sure that I do at least something productive before I do something that's not so productive, like escapism. It's like what I do when I'm working with the youth that I work with is I give them some options of what we're going to do for the day, of what they would like to do. And then I tell them what they have to do before they get to that point. So it's moderating their joyful activities, their escapism activities, with stuff that they have to get done.
Totally. I think as a young adult now, I have talking about it makes me appreciate my parents so much more, when my parents said, you have to do your homework before you go and play.
Yeah.
Because you have to take care of those things in your life before you clock out,
Totally.
But also don't feel bad if, you put something on hold till the following day. Because like we said before, you only have so much time in a day,
Yeah.
and you need to moderate the work and play, right? Because too much of anything is bad, and you just have to, care and nurture for all aspects of your life, and because that's what's going to make for a happy life.
Yeah. So escapism can be a good thing. You get to do the fun things in life. That's where the fun is. That's where you're escaping the boring, the lame, whatever it is. But you can do positive things through escapism. For example, like going for a walk or a hike for me is something that I enjoy doing. I love doing those things. It's a form of escapism for me. While I'm doing it, I don't have to think about the rest of my life or those daily things. But it's also, I'm doing something physical and I'm getting that fun part in. We spoke about that when we talked about physical health in like episode 8, where finding something fun to do for your physical activity is the best way to do it because it helps you stay motivated to be physical. But it's also fun. So you get to escape your life. Yeah.
Perfect. Escapism.
From what I found, I was reading about escapism when I decided this should be a topic. And I found this beautiful article that kind of put it on a spectrum and a continuum where there's good escapism on one side, and then there's really bad escapism on the other side, where that is your complete obsession and nothing else. But in between, they slowly slide the scale up to that bad point. And the next phase after escapism being a good, healthy, positive part of your life is where it starts to become a tool for avoidance. You start to avoid those things that you know you have to do. You start to avoid the people that you don't want to be around, but sometimes that's good as well, but you start to avoid those fights and things that you know you need to have in your life to have a healthier life. You just avoid emotions. And instead of working, you procrastinate and things like that, which...
It's good to recognize when when you're utilizing something as escapism or when you're using like in a negative way or in a positive way, because certain things are good for you and will relieve stress and all those negative things that we talked about, but when it becomes an obsession and it's all that you do and it's all that you care about, that's when it becomes an issue. And when you start giving into certain things, when you eating is a great form of escapism. People will eat not because their body needs fuel, but because of you always hear about those people who, I got in a fight so I went and ate ice cream, or things like that.
I was bored so I raided the fridge.
Yeah.
That's a normal one for me.
Totally.
Yeah. Another thing on that same topic, if you notice that you're starting doing those things where you're kind of neglecting your health and your hygiene, that's a good indicator that you're using escapism in a negative way in your life. For example, if you're not shaving or cutting your nails or showering or eating healthily on a regular basis, those are definitely good indicators that there's something in your life that you're escaping from by basically not doing the things that you need to get done.
Jimmy?
Yes?
What's wrong?
Why?
Well, you have a beard. You haven't shaved.
No.
So
it's well, I actually have to.
You're neglecting something. You're not taking care of yourself.
No, my beard, I sculpt it.
Oh, okay.
I make it look good.
Yeah, you always look good.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Anytime.
And I did have a shower today too. I mean, my diet's not so great today.
Good job, Jimmy.
But I showered, so
You're doing something right.
I'm okay. I'm still in the middle there. A little wobbly, but I'm okay.
That's fair. I'm sure you'll get your footing back and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
So that's escapism for you. You know, it's just good to keep an eye on those things, observe the things that you might do, and just, it's good to just at least acknowledge them. And if you can recognize what they are, then you can maybe start to make some little changes and shifts. And, maybe when you like run to something, like if all you do is like, if like when you come home from work is you just like lay on the couch, like maybe you should try and give yourself a half an hour to do other things, like whatever needs to be tended to in your household or to yourself before you get to the couch. Like, it's just good if that's what you do, right? Give yourself time to do other things. It'll just, if you can observe them, then you can change them as necessary.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say. That's escapism.
I want to mention where I actually got the inspiration for talking about escapism, actually.
Okay.
I had spoken, I think, in the last episode about how we have been trying to create a community with positivity and things like that. And I had been speaking to someone else who has been working on a podcast. And what she does is she travels the world and basically does her podcast from wherever she is and talks about her travels and the different things that she kind of thinks about and comes across. And one of her Instagram posts was this beautiful explanation of escapism in the form of travel. And her podcast is called Art of the Unknown Podcast. I'll put a link in the blog notes for it. But I just loved the way that she wrote about escapism and traveling and how some people can use traveling to escape their day-to-day life literally by literally running away and traveling the world.
Did we not talk about this a few episodes ago?
I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but I know we did talk about her podcast. But I might have mentioned that exact thing.
No, on our episode about traveling, I think we talked about it and how people will use it as a form of, neglecting their life and getting away from certain things when that can not necessarily be healthy.
But that was my inspiration.
Cool.
For this part.
Well, yeah, we'll put the link in the description and you should definitely go check out her podcast.
Yeah.
So, topic 3 for the day isn't really much of a topic. I mean, I don't want to throw shade on it or anything. I'm not trying to say that it's to be taken lightly. I just mean we're not going to get into some huge discussion or anything about it. We're just going to talk quickly about it because it needs to be talked about. Mm-hmm. We just had a friend, a colleague,
a peer
pass away. A peer, yes, pass away. From Jimmy, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So we have a friend from back in Nanaimo, and again on the topic of escapism, he had got caught up. From what we know, he got caught up in drugs, and I think specifically opiates or something. And he got to a point in his life where he ended up dying from an overdose. So we wanted to mention escapism and drugs especially can be very dangerous and a big health concern. And we just want everybody to be safe. And if you do these things, then be safe about it. Know where you're getting things. Do small amounts, check these things. And I don't know, it's really hard to talk about, to be honest. I haven't seen him in a really long time, but it's just crazy to have somebody that you know personally go through these struggles and then end up in this space. So I want to say rest in peace to Anton.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on here lately in terms of people passing away at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks, and it takes a toll on everybody, and I get it, but yeah, just want everyone to be safe out there. Times are hard, but rest in peace, take her easy, be safe. We love you all. All right. Now, Jimmy,
Yes.
what is our listener challenge for the week?
Well, our listener challenge is really, it's something you should do all the time. Take care of yourself. Let us know if any of these tips for self-care or anything we talked about with escapism, if any of that helped you or inspired you in any way. Just send us something letting us know what you thought. Even if you want to say, hey, I think you guys are wrong on this, and we can have a discussion about it. Something like that. And we try to do this listener challenge every week on each podcast. I don't remember when we started, but we've been trying to keep them going and have as many of them as we can. And we don't mind if you go back and find something in another episode and you send it to us now. You can go do any of them and send them in. There's no time constraints on that.
We always want to hear from all of you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that. You can go listen to previous podcasts and do any of the previous listener challenges, and you can reach out to us on Instagram /Roots of Life Podcast, or you can reach us at rootsoflifepodcast@gmail.com. We're at Twitter at Roots of Life Pod. We also have our website up where we got some blogs and some notes on a lot of the episodes, so you can go check those out, rootsoflifepodcast.com. So we really hope to hear from a lot of you. So yeah. On that note, we're going to get into what is Artist of the Week. Our Artist of the Week is Kyle Miller. He sent us his information at rootsoflifepodcast@gmail.com, where what you can also do, so send us your information, whether you're a musician or an illustrative artist, and we will share your art with everyone else. We want to help spread love and creativity and positivity with everyone. So if you have an original piece of work that you want to share with others, feel free to send it to us and let us know, and we will share your social media handles and your work with everybody. So on that note, I'm going to read a little bio of Kyle. And Kyle is the owner at TGT Studios.
Yeah, owner and creator.
Yeah. And so TGT Studios is a small and highly specialized art studio on the west coast of Vancouver Island in British Columbia, owned and operated by third-generation woodworker and artist Kyle Miller. Miller began his training in traditional joinery and cabinet making before branching out to include stringed instrument design and construction and prop work. Miller's work has been seen in a wide range of venues, from national museums to different stages around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jimmy, you know Kyle personally, so why don't you tell everybody a little bit about him, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I actually met Kyle, I think it was second year of university. We were in a psychology class together. He's a really funny, down-to-earth guy. We started talking because he noticed one day that I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast on my phone, and he was also into doing the Joe Rogan podcast. And we also ended up working together on one of our assignments. He's a really nice guy. he's still in school because this his studio basically just like went off and started doing really well. So he's basically going to school part time. He was doing psychology, but I'm not sure what he's doing now. I think most recently he's been doing English, I believe. And he just got published in an article as well doing that. So it's pretty cool. He's doing really well for himself. So he now has his own publication from something he's done at school. He runs his own studio, and his work has been seen in so many places. It's amazing.
Man, this guy, Kyle, he's just like, his work is phenomenal.
Just
like it so amazing.
Blows my mind.
Yeah. So we're gonna post the website and his social media handles in the description below, but it's his website, www.tgt-studios.com. Go check it out. He's got this beautiful, like, just gorgeous artwork. It's like there's some really cool clocks.
Yeah,
what kind of clocks are they?
Nixie clocks.
Nixie clocks?
They use like Nixie tubes, which are, I believe, an old Russian thing. I don't know how they work.
That's up to Kyle to figure out.
I'm sure Kyle, you could ask him. His Twitter and Instagram handles are at TGT Studios. So you can send him questions. And if you go on his Instagram, you will be blown away by the amazing work that he does. It's just brilliant. I can't believe somebody can make that out of wood.
I know, right?
Ridiculous.
And so like you were going to say, he's been recognized like across so many different platforms and from different news and media outlets and publications on his work. And it's funny that you say one of the initial ways that you connected with him was through your enjoyment of the Joe Rogan podcast, because he got recognized on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, just recently actually. They showed one of his clocks on the video of his podcast and talked about him and his work as well. Other places he's been, his work has been seen or talked about, or even clients that he's had. Well, I'll let you know his long list here. He's been seen on the Today Show, Billboard Music Awards, CBC, multiple music videos. He's had work in National Museum of Mathematics has had his work.
Is that the Canadian Museum of Mathematics?
I'm not sure. I feel
like it'd probably be American.
I don't know. I know he has a guitar, I believe, that he made that's in a museum in Sweden or something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like his work is all over the world at this point. It's really cool.
Can we talk about the microphone holder that he made for T-Pain?
Yes. It's
that
so
thing
cool.
Is so badass.
I think there's two of them. One's like a brass knuckles looking one that has like these big spikes and stuff. And then another one's this steampunk thing that has this circular, what do you call it? It's like this circular like electrical display that has like this lightning kind of looking stuff. And it's super cool. Actually, I was
so cool.
I was playing Battlefield with him a little while ago, and he was talking about how, because he's done work for T-Pain before, and he's doing another project currently. I don't know if he's been posting it, but I'll leave out what it is for now until he's finished. But T-Pain's manager was connecting Kyle with somebody else that needed to help him on this project, and he introduced this other person as, I think he was like a computer guy, so he told him what he does for computers, and then he introduced Kyle as the guy that makes awesome shit.
The guy that makes awesome shit.
Yeah. I was like, he's not wrong. Like, that's basically what you do. Like, that's it. That's awesome. So
no, man, Kyle, he kills it. He's one of the few where like every time I scroll through my feeds, his pictures pop up and I'm guaranteed to click like. Like I have to
Always.
like everything that Kyle posts. I have to like it because his art is just so beautiful.
It's so
I have
good.
such an appreciation for, you know, people our age who are just like doing cool things like that, you know, like it's so creative and he's just created his own lane and doing things that not everybody is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how much older than he is, but he's pretty close to our age. He lives on the island with his wife and 2 kids. His wife also just finished university recently as well, and she's doing well for herself. So I'm really happy for them and what he's doing. It's really cool. One of the coolest things though that I've seen him make, he does a lot of steampunk work, or did previously. I'm not sure if, I mean, the Nixie clocks are pretty steampunk as well, but that was like a big part of what he was doing for a while, was steampunk things. And he got featured in the official PlayStation magazine and the UK version, as well as the Reddit front page for his, I mean, the Reddit front page, that's amazing, for his steampunked version of a PlayStation 3. And I think he's also done a PlayStation 4 as well in steampunk.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he just like makes a casing for it and then like puts it over the PlayStation, or if he like just makes the thing and puts all the inner workings into that. I don't know how it works, but it looks amazing. It's super cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kyle Miller and TGT Studios. So go check them out. We're going to post all his social media handles in the description below.
And he's sent me a few pictures that I can put up on our Instagram, so I'll be throwing those up there. You can check those out, and there will be a link to his profile there as well.
So yeah, stay tuned. You can stay tuned to the Roots of Life Instagram page as well. So with Kyle being a woodwork artist, or I guess just not a musician this week, we don't have a song to play at the end of the podcast. So with that being said, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We appreciate your attention. We appreciate your ears and you taking the time for being here with us this week. Stay tuned for another episode of the Roots of Life podcast. My name's Taylor. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe and stay weird.